something that we all deal with and experience in different ways. It may not be a formal diagnosis, however, we do know when we're not feeling like ourselves.
Depression and anxiety are much more widely acknowledged these days, which is a wonderful thing. I think that's because of social media, and people are sharing their real life stories and battles with depression and anxiety. However, I think that when we conjure up an image in our head of what depression and anxiety look like, we think of these classic images that are portrayed in media, like TV and movies, which like depression can look like someone sitting alone in a dark room, not talking to anybody.
Okay, so my depression is very crippling, I'm gonna say. I lay down, sometimes I don't want to move out of the bed. I have kids, so it's really bad. It's sad sometimes because just be sitting there thinking, like, can life get any worse than what it is? But I don't know, it's a feeling that you can't control. You don't want to move. I don't want to move. I don't want to do nothing. I barely want to get up and go to the bathroom. And I don't want to take care of myself. It's like everybody is against me, but it's not really that. That's just how I feel. Everything's going downhill.
Depression has been something that has been a little bit more consistent in terms of what it looks like. For depression, I have just always coped by journaling. That's always been what's helpful to me. It's something that I fear passing down to my child, but I think the one thing that depression and anxiety have given me is a lot of empathy. So even if that does happen, I feel like I can at least offer my child that a lot of empathy. And honestly, I also feel like that's what kids really need, just some empathy from their parents, some understanding, some kindness.
For me, depression is laying in the bed all day, watching the dishes pile up, watching the food go bad because I didn't put it up the night before. It's like watching my life happen in slow motion around me. It's almost like an out-of-body experience.
Depression, it looks like I'm antisocial. I don't want to really be bothered with people. I'm distant, and I'm a really bubbly person. Like, I love to have fun, I'm happy, but when I'm depressed, when I feel like it's a depression for me, I just shut down. I close myself off from people, and I'm in my room. I'm constantly in my room, in my bed whenever I get the chance to, and I cry here and there. I do cry here and there, and I just don't know how to interact. I don't know how to go outside. I don't know how to go places when I'm going through that depression. It just looks like a really dark person, a really dark space. And I'm probably also maybe go through negative speak, like not thoughts, nothing like thought wise, but like speaking negatively or negative. So that's kind of what depression looks like for me.
I kept showing up as myself. No one would have ever known that I was battling or dealing with anything, because I always stepped out and showed my best self in front of others. But I would say the one sign with depression for me, for what it looks like, is just a lack of motivation.
The tricky thing is that I've had depression and anxiety for a very, very long time, and they have looked different at different stages of my life. Currently, I'm pregnant right now, so my anxiety looks like a bunch of thoughts crammed into my head, a bunch of worries, me being frazzled all the time, spacey, forgetful. because I'm just thinking so much about if I'm going to be a good mom, if my baby's going to be okay, different things from the pregnancy to the birth to raising the child and to even like the child's adulthood. Anxiety looks like me crying at random moments. It looks like me breathing heavily and having shortness of breath at times, my chest feeling tight.
Anxiety looks like to me is the crippling procrastination of doing the small stuff because I want it to be perfect, because I don't know what the outcome is going to be. And it just feels overwhelming to start a project without knowing what the outcome is going to be. And that brings on this feeling that I'm drowning. My anxiety for me is like I can't task in a functional place. I can't step into the world. I start to get nervous when I go into a group of people. It's confusing. I'm scared to start new stuff, like starting a job. I'm scared to start that because it's really bad. It's definitely difficult to deal with, because when I tell you that you just feel like you're alone, I feel like I'm alone sometimes, most of the time anyway. Most of the time I feel like I'm alone in my anxiety because nobody understands what I'm going through.
So for me, it looks like putting off a project but constantly thinking about it. It can look like forgetting to eat, or eating too much, or not sleeping, or even sleeping at weird times for too long.
Anxiety is more, I am crying hysterically, like shoulder crying, you know, the shoulder cry. I am crying so, like, I get so overwhelmed. It's like an overwhelming feeling for me. It's tightness in my chest for me. It's me trying to control my breathing, and I'm just so overwhelmed where I just don't want to, I don't know how to focus. I get so overwhelmed with it. And that can be with anything. It can be anxiety with my house, or just like doing multiple tasks, especially procrastination, because your girl's a procrastinator. So that is definitely a trigger for my anxiety.
What anxiety looks like to me first shows up in my body in the form of muscle tension, also me picking my nails. Then it shows up in my mind in the form of constant negative thoughts. Because of these negative thoughts, it affects my sleep patterns. So when my sleep patterns change because of anxiety, it looks like constant replays in my head of things that probably happened in the past, but majority of things that's negative and no longer in my control, which also leads into sometimes my anxiety at night becomes worry of the future, things that haven't happened yet, things that I have no control over. But it just constantly replays in my mind, and it just keeps going. And they're usually negative whenever they do happen.
But for me, anxiety started to trigger more as I got older and was able to identify exactly what it was. Because younger, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what that feeling was. But now that I'm older, I feel like I do experience it more because there's more life. Right, there's more life things we have to go through in life as we get older, and I feel that that's when it really became a thing or a focal point in my life that I sometimes struggle with. And yeah, like even when I have those moments, you know, I try to tap, I try to control, you know, the tapping, I try to control my breathing, I try to pray, you know, and praying does work for me.
Yes, while there are those classic symptoms that we look out for in our friends and clients, it's really important to recognize that it can really look like anything, and it can affect anybody.
So I guess in the end, depression and anxiety might be scary and overwhelming, heartbreaking, but the positive side is that they've made me a more intuitive person, someone who's more empathetic, kind, and understanding, and also patient. And I guess when it comes to motherhood, those are great descriptors of a mother. So I wonder what your depression and anxiety look like.
For me, depression and anxiety are kind of like tag teamed, right? And that's not to say that it's the same for everybody. What does it look like for you? So now that you know what my depression and anxiety look like, what does it look like for you?
So now that you know what anxiety and depression look like for me, what does it look like for you?
Anxiety is real. Anxiety is real, and a lot of people don't even know what those feelings are, and a lot of it may not be the same as yours. That depression may not, my depression or the way it looks like for me may not look like for you, or my anxiety, the way I have it may not look like that for you, and that's okay. So with that being said, won't you join us on what depression and anxiety look like for you, and share it, and be okay to be open about it. Be okay to share that with people, because it is normal and it's okay to deal with. And like I said, it may not look the same as everybody else's, and that's fine. So join us, comment, and speak about it.